Hey, welcome guys. In this video we're doing a review of the Roku 4 media player. So we'll start things off with the remote control. It's a pretty small, compact design, which is nice. It's a welcome design. There's a nice indentation at the back near the top where your index finger can kind of just rest. You can use it with the left or right hand. It's preferred with the right hand for the volume controls where your headset, and I'll explain that later why. The directional pad is pretty nice and easy to use, but it's a little bit high. I noticed I have to kind of reach a little bit higher from my thumb to get a hold of it. I would have preferred if the directional pad was where the fast forward and rewind buttons are. It would have been much more preferred, and if the OK button was probably above it, above the directional pad. So you have some Netflix shortcut button, Amazon for example, but for some reason you have radio and sling shortcut buttons to open the applications quickly. I'm not sure why they would choose those and not say Hulu Plus, which is much more popular, or Spotify for music service. It's kind of bizarre. In fact, I think radio is a killed off service if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, the home button and the back button is a little bit higher for my preference. I would have preferred it lower. The volume rocker buttons are designed for the headset 3.5mm headphone jack, which is on the left side. So Roku actually included this in-ear headphone set with the box and the Roku. There's also some adapter pieces if your ears don't fit on the stock standard fitting here. So you can actually plug in these in-ear headphones to the remote control directly with that 3.5mm jack I showed you guys. What that basically does is it forces any sound being broadcast from the Roku directly to the headphones. So if you have someone say taking a nap next to you, the TV will be muted, but the sound will carry over to the headphones. Now this doesn't have to be used, you can actually use your own headphones. My regular Sennheiser headphones do work with the remote control. Now according to Roku, the device consumes about 12.5 watts of power when it's playing a 4K video, and typically this device is not turned off. It's always meant to be on and ready and active for you. Now there is an option to actually have the device go to sleep after 30 minutes of inactivity. That does not count, say, movie playback time or music playback time, and when you do press any button on the remote control, it'll wake up the device from its sleep mode. It's a pretty standard small size form factor media player, nothing special here, measuring at 6.5 by 6.5 by 0.8 inches. Looking at the length and width, it's just pretty close to my Galaxy Note 5 smartphone, just a little bit longer and wider than that. Now the front side we have the remote sensor somewhere. I can't actually see it because I noticed that the remote sensor works even if the soundbar that I have on my TV is blocking the Roku, which is nice, so it's able to bypass that. The only USB port is on the right side, unfortunately. There's an Ethernet port at the back with an optical audio output port, an HDMI port, and just below the HDMI is actually a micro SD card port and the DC in for power. Over on the left side you have this little Roku flap. I have no idea what the purpose is. We'll just kind of carry on and ignore that. Now the top, this looks like a volume control button. It's actually not. It's actually a remote find feature. So if you lost a remote, you press that button, it'll start beeping the Roku. So let's take a listen. So essentially it'll ring for about a minute before you have to press the remote find feature button again if you can't find it. And over on the bottom you have the reset button, your serial numbers, and some ventilation ports on the media player. Included inside is a Wi-Fi adapter which supports up to 802.11 AC connection. And to be honest, I use everything on Wi-Fi connection and it's super buttery smooth. It works great, but that of course depends on the signal strength of your router. I highly recommend you check out the one that I have. It's extremely powerful. You can find a link to the review of that router in the video description. Now one of the biggest disappointments about this device, considering its size, it's not too big or not too large for a media player. The only USB port is on the right side and not the front. This makes it kind of cumbersome and annoying when you have to plug in a USB stick or take it back out. Now the official list of supported file types is in the video description. I've just taken it from Roku and passed along that information. Now I do notice that it does play H.264 files compressed. It does also play H.265 compressed files, MP4 and MKV, which is the most popular right now. I do kind of find it weird that it can play H.265, which is great. This is a new compression. It's pretty rare as to which media players can play it, so it's fantastic that this one can. And you know, also considering it has a quad-core processor inside, but I noticed that it doesn't play audio from certain H.264 video files. I think that's probably due to the audio compression. But the weird thing is that even though the audio doesn't play in those videos on this Roku 4 media player, my other media players can play it, including my smart TV, so a little bit disappointing. There's also a major disappointment in terms of it can't play certain 4K videos, and I'll explain later on why. Now depending on your phone's operating system, there is a Roku remote control application available. In this instance I have Android. Now it has the ability to access the remote control, your news feed, searching, as well as playing media like videos, pictures, and music off of your smartphone. Now I do notice that it's a little bit laggy to play the content back on the Roku device, which is a little bit disappointing. There's also the ability to mirror cast, so basically mirror what is being displayed on your phone, exactly the same to the Roku device. But technically, according to Roku, this is beta, so it doesn't work that well, and I can actually stand by that. It takes forever to connect. When it does, it's pretty okay. Now you also have the ability to stream the feed on your phone. Tap on something, select which app you want to open it up, and it'll open it directly on your Roku quickly. So one thing I have to say right off the bat is that the interface is extremely simple. Now that's kind of a good thing, but in this instance it's kind of a bad thing because the interface is really lackluster. This is the kind of interface you would find from a media player maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. Now let's go to the most basic of things. That of course is, the settings. There's not much to go through here. So the home section is basically your most basic content. These are like the channels, Roku calls it, or actually they're apps, but Roku calls them channels, that you have selected to make as your primary apps available right off, turning on the device or using it. The feed is more of like a movie news feed. There's not much going on here. I almost never look through it, to be honest. Movie store is, a bunch of media content that you can buy, rent. You have some promo codes that tend to change every so often, which is pretty neat. You do have the option available. And of course you have the same thing but for TV shows. And of course you have a news feed section. Now there is a search section available, but you can actually just press and hold down the magnifying icon button on the remote. And while you have it held down, you can say whatever you want to search for. So you can actually search apps, or as Roku calls them, channels. So I can search something. If I want to add Netflix to my home feed, I can do that. I can search for Netflix. But let's search up for a random movie. The Martian. And what it does is it'll try to go through every single feed available. It'll look through anything that might provide some relevance. So this is the one I'm actually looking for with Matt Damon. So if I select that, it then goes down even deeper, telling you which channels or apps have it available for you to feed it off of. So I'll switch over to Netflix. Again, all of this is done on Wi-Fi. My router is on the second floor. Again, I highly recommend you check out the review of that router. It's very powerful. So opening Netflix and Hulu is relatively fast. So just going through Netflix, it did start up in just a matter of seconds. This is your typical Netflix application. It works great, nothing special, but most importantly, it's not slow. It functions at a pretty decent speed. Although one thing I have to mention is that exiting the Netflix app is somewhat slow if you use the exit feature. I tend to just press the home button on the remote instead. It bypasses it, makes it go much faster, which is kind of weird. Of course, like I said, you have Hulu. And I was actually surprised to see you have Google Play Movies available. So if you use your Google Play account quite often, you have that available. I'm surprised that was actually included, but that's kind of a good thing. Now you do have the ability to get games as apps. Now the amount of apps you can store on this device, I'm not sure what the storage is limited to. There is an A and B button on the remote, which I demonstrated earlier when I showed you guys the remote. This is where it comes in handy, where you tilt the remote over to a horizontal basis and use the A and B commands as well as the directional buttons to change certain functions and commands in the games. Now you do have an assortment of other apps available like YouTube and Spotify, as I mentioned. There's nothing special about the YouTube application. Now I wouldn't put anything against Roku here because all the apps are developed by the company behind them. So for example, this is designed by YouTube, not by Roku. And the YouTube app is absolutely horrendous. It's like really, really bad. But that's a Google issue. They just refuse to update it to look any better. But it works fine. It loads really quickly. Content is really quick to load, and works just seamlessly on Wi-Fi. So one of the most important things to me is, of course, my home videos. Now these are precious memories that I'll carry over for years. So what do we have here? We have the Roku Media Player app. Now, for some reason, Roku gives the option to remove this as a channel. I don't understand why they would do that, because if you remove it by accident, you'll end up looking for it. So that's kind of weird. But nonetheless, let's move on. So this is where you're able to access your USB content or your locally shared network content. So for example, I want to filter to videos only, and here's my PC sharing from upstairs my content wirelessly over my network. Now here's the thing, I mentioned earlier that the interface is really kind of poor. It's not the best, and that's no exception for what I'm seeing here. So if I want to see videos, I have to go to the videos folder. But look at the interface. This is horrendous. This is something from like maybe a 15-year-old media player or a 10-year-old media player. This looks really bad. This is like really, really poor. I expected a lot better. And I'll explain even further why it's that bad. So visually, it's horrible. But then here's the other issue. So if I go to videos by folder, I have 31 folders displayed here. So I have my folders named with the year date. It's just easier for me to organize. So I have 1986 video content on my computer, but then if I want to look for, say, videos from 2010, I have to skim all the way down. Modern media players nowadays have a much cleaner interface. You can skip through what you want quickly. This is actually kind of inexcusable. I tried updating to the newest update the Roku 4 has available. This is what you get. This is what it's currently sitting at, and it's really horrendous. Now on the topic of my locally stored videos, I did mention earlier that I have some MKV files that are in H.264 compression. They're 1080p videos. The audio does not play back on the Roku 4, but it plays back just fine on my smart TV and other media players that I have, which is kind of a bad thing for the Roku 4. Okay, but looking past that, I have some home videos here. This is 1080p content compressed in H.264. So they play just fine, thankfully. Audio works, video plays back, no problem. Now the exact same cell phone I used back then, it was the LG G Flex 2. These videos were recorded in 1080p. Then I recorded another video here, as you can see, in 4K. So it's the exact same cell phone. The 1080p videos play just fine. If I go over to 4K, it won't play it. And I kind of find this inexcusable because the LG G Flex 2, the Samsung Galaxy S devices like the S6, S7, the Samsung Galaxy Note devices, a whole bunch of Android devices, they all use pretty much a similar compression. There's nothing special about this 4K video. It's the most commonly, easily one available because it's being recorded on millions of cell phones worldwide, but I can't play it back. So a lot of people will be disappointed with the score that I give this media player, but hear me out. Just give me a second. Don't go crazy on me. There's a reason for it. The most core value of a media player was kind of missed on the Roku 4. You see, it's heavily advertised as being this 4K media player, 4K this, 4K that, which is great. We get it. Nothing wrong with that. That's cool. That's awesome, actually. But the problem is it misses core value of the media player in the aspect that, it's supposed to play the most common file types of videos that I have on my computer or smartphone. Now, those 4K videos that I could not play, which I showed you on my local network, they were recorded with a smartphone. Now, this is a very popular file type and a codec compression that's available on millions of devices, millions of smartphones worldwide. And not only that, this kind of compression and format has been available for more than 2 years, yet this 4K media player can't play that very common 4K home video that I have. If I can't capitalize on playing my home videos, which is a very popular file type and compression type, and these are my precious home videos, it kind of misses the point, doesn't it? I mean, if you're not really caring too much about your home content, and you want to do streaming services like Hulu+, Netflix 4K, Amazon, Spotify, etc., you're in luck. I mean, this is a great media player. The extensive apps, the list that's available, or channels according to Roku, is huge. I mean, you can get a lot of them available, which is fantastic, including Google Play Movies, which is actually surprising, but a good thing to me. And there's some other features like in-ear headphones, which, it doesn't disturb people around you. You can connect to your remote. You have the remote loss feature, which is great, especially with kids, stuff like that, especially if you have guests over. But missing the most important thing of not being able to play those popular 4K video file types is a big no-no on this. And there's also that issue where certain audio codecs, which other media players, including my smart TV of all things, can play, this Roku media player can't, which is bizarre. And of course, the layout is absolutely horrendous when it comes to playing your local area network content back, unfortunately. I'm hoping with the next version they improve on this heavily, but they got a lot of work ahead of them. So if you guys found this video useful, be sure to check my Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Instagram links in the video description. Hit that like button, it does help, subscribe, and thanks for watching.